Today is May 12th, 2023, and we are back again to talk about the NFL season that is still 3 months away. So we are a little bit early, and I am flying Ryan Gokers along with, as always.
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verone, because you have to think about it, flying that the NFL is a freaking genius because you think about it, right? You have baseball is heating up, you have hockey and basketball at their peaks as far as playoff is concerned. So if you're in the NFL, how do you steal some of the media time away? Easy, just release the schedule for the entire season because that just knocks everything else a bleep out.
Yeah, schedule release last night, 3 hour special on NFL Network, covered all over the place on the internet. And if you watched a lot of that, like some people did, then you know it really wasn't worth
Best
watching.
bet,
But it's the schedule of
best
football; it rules.
quote or headline I think I saw is basically, I forget where I saw it, but somebody said that basically you're having a multiple hour show on basically what is somebody sending somebody else a PDF file.
Yep, that's pretty much it. I mean, the draft is just paperwork. I think that was Rich Eisen said something about the draft is just paperwork, but we do it for 3 days and everybody watches it and follows it. And schedule release is really not even that exciting. So, anyways, we're gonna look ahead to the 2023 season. It's way too early. There's gonna be injuries. There's gonna be trades. There's gonna be
Nothing, not,
surprises.
nothing is ever too early. I think I saw somebody posting their predictions for what the uh, bowl games for next December is going to be.
Yeah, it's always football season anymore, and it is. I guess it is really never too early to start looking ahead. I know fantasy drafts start in just about 2.5, 2 months. So
And
rookie drafts for Dynasty are actually going on now, or will be starting in the next few days. I think I've got one or two done, one in the works, and one that starts tomorrow as of now. So yeah, we are rapidly approaching football season, as you had mentioned. Football, basketball, hockey, kind of sharing the limelight last night. Baseball, I mean, it's regular season baseball. It's hard to get too excited in May, but Rays looked good last night, which is good. And anyways,
well,
let's.
other than some of those games against the Orioles,
Orioles are a good team this year. If you're competitive with good teams and you're beating the teams you're supposed to beat, that's the recipe for success in baseball. And that's something that everybody who says the Rays are not very good because of this, that, and the other. Oh, they've beaten bad teams. Yeah, look at every other team that's played bad teams. They've got more losses. So there you go. Anyways, I personally think the AFC is much more interesting than the NFC just because I think the talent and competitive level of balance in the AFC is much better. So let's start with the NFC. Let's start with the NFC East. Joel, the Philadelphia Eagles won the conference and the division last year, losing in the Super Bowl to Kansas City. Dallas and the Giants went to the playoffs, and Washington was on the outside looking in. Washington officially under contract to sell as of today. So good news for the Commanders fans. Technically, everybody, but everybody had a good year because it was last year of Dan Snyder, and the other three made the playoffs. So Joel, looking ahead to 2023, what do you see going on in this division?
I know it's not much of a shock or a bold prediction, but got the Eagles winning the division yet again, especially since they had that rule with the thing that they do with the running game was not
Mm-hmm.
illegal. So I think that's going to be key critical going into this year. Then, of course, you have the Dallas Cowboys. Some people are already trying to say that they can win the Super Bowl. Don't forget what the Cowboys do when they get to the playoffs. So I think their second place team, I think they have a definite shot of getting the playoffs, just not much of a shot of really doing anything once they get there. Giants, third place, actually stand a chance to miss the playoffs, especially when you see the brutal schedule they have with how many games on the road. It's like somebody in scheduling does not like them. And, well, you had this year Washington Commanders just miss the playoffs. I think they don't even sniff the playoffs next year. I think they just have too many injuries and too many questions going into this season.
I've got the same order. I've got the Eagles with a 13-4 record, winning this division kind of easily. They won it kind of easily last year as well. Dallas 10-7. They're going to be in that wild card contention. Giants, I've got 8-9, not quite making the playoffs. Washington, I agree, not really in it. I think Sam Howell's going to be good at quarterback, but not good enough. That's going to be a 6-11 team. And that could be the end of Ron Rivera. I mean, they just don't have a lot of talent. They don't have a lot of big playmakers on either side of the football. I mean, you can look at Terry McLaurin. You can look at, you know, who else really? McLaurin. McLaurin's kind of a tier down than, it's not Tyreek. It's not Devontae.
Antonio
It's not
Gibson.
Chase. Gibson's gone, or pretty much. Brian Robinson's their number one back right now. Like, who on that team is making you feel excited? There really isn't anybody. So that's kind of the point.
Since
They just don't have the weapons
since
around.
The new number, that's the new number that has been, of course, approved for players to be used in the NFL now.
Yes. My skater hockey number is 00. Anyways, so that's what I see coming out of the NFC East. No big surprise. The defending NFC champions are going to be a tough out all season long. They have one of the toughest schedules, which you would expect being a conference champion. NFC and AFC East playing, so that's why NFC and AFC East have the toughest strength of schedule going forward this season. But yeah, the Eagles, I think they are pretty much as much of a lock for the playoffs as you're going to get in the NFC. We'll get to one other team that's really, really certain here later. The wild card, again, Dallas at 10-7. I think they get in, but it's not going to be easy. The NFC South, this was a very bad division that the Bucs won last year. No Tom Brady. Every other team below 500, Atlanta, New Orleans, Carolina, very, very struggle bus worthy. Mid-round picks, mid-early first-round picks, I should say. Carolina did trade up to get Bryce Young at the number 1 overall pick, but traded away DJ Moore. Atlanta now bringing Bijan Robinson, a run-heavy team that had great success with Tyler Algier. Now gets possibly the best running back prospects at Saquon Barkley, if not further. And New Orleans, Derek Carr. So some teams in the South making moves, but I don't know if it's anything to get too excited about. Of course, the Buccaneers going to the former number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, because that's apparently up in the air. So, Joel, your division, your team, where are we going?
First, when you read a quote like I did, that's a quote that just makes you try not to crack up absolutely laughing. When you have the Buccaneers are trying to say, because of course they're not going to say it's going to be a rebuilding year. Of course they're not going to say it's going to be a total complete crap as AF year as you can get. No, they're saying Trask is giving off Brady vibes. Really?
That's not accurate.
They're not going to say you need to just bring a paper bag and embrace the suck going forward into this year. And this is just going to be a reality show division in the making, with how much of a Charlie Foxtrot this division has potential to be in this forthcoming year. Now, division winner, I just picked because I think that this team has had the most injuries, and the reason why I picked them to win the division, quite frankly, just about anybody can this year with how bad I think it's going to be. But the New Orleans Saints, they ended up having Derek Carr, hopefully a band-aid for the position at quarterback, with, of course, famous Jameis and his 40 gajillion turnovers that we all know about and remember from here in Tampa. But they also have had all those injuries last year that they're recovering from. Now, the big question, I think, from the Saints is if they can weather any kind of legal trouble that Alvin Kamara, of course, has. We know with the potential, if everything goes the way everyone kind of feels like it's going to do, potential baseline 6-game suspension for him. That's why, of course, they brought in Jamal Williams as some sort of backup for potential problem that could happen. So that's the one key issue I think that the Saints really are going to have to deal with if, of course, anything does happen to AK. So, but I tend to think of that they are the strongest team. Carolina Panthers, of course. This is the kind of division that the only team that's going to get in the playoffs is the division winner, like last year, the Bucs. So Saints, they get in, I think, because they can handle the Bucs. They've proven that. Panthers, who do they have? Last year they traded away CMC. In the offseason, they traded away DJ Moore. Who do they even sent Sam Darnold? So I don't know. It's like, I know you have some people out there that's picking them to win, because might as well, but I just don't have as much confidence in them this year as last year. And last year they didn't have a whole lot of confidence anyway. Of course, they have the not so hot Atlanta Falcons trying to figure out. I know that they dazzled everybody with their pick in the draft, but yeah, they can't draft an entire defense. That's what they need. So I think they're going to be third. And sadly, we're just going to have to figure out and just embrace the suck, folks. Tampa Bay Bucks, we're going to be last. I would be very surprised to have us as division winners again this year, especially without Brady. And the other quote that made me totally guffaw endlessly was when you had now former coach Bruce Arians actually say that Baker Mayfield was better than any of the quarterbacks in the draft. Let me say that again. He said Baker Mayfield was better than any of the quarterbacks in the draft. I take a little bit of issue with that.
I mean, I would rather have Young, I'd rather have Stroud, and I'd probably rather take the lottery ticket on Richardson. But where the Bucks were going to realistically have a shot at getting, he's absolutely right. Baker Mayfield's better than those options.
Yeah, so would you take a hard pass this year on Evans and Godwin, even though they've definitely been studs
I
previously?
just in the last few days traded Mike Evans and what else was that? I'll pull that up. It was Mike Evans and another piece for Jimmy Garoppolo, Jonathan Mingo, who, if you don't know, we're going to talk about here in a second, anyways. And as soon as this wants to load, because yay, sleeper. Yeah, it was a trade away because Mike Evans, he's first of all playing in his age 30 season, which is when you start to see some receivers start to decline. You're going from hey, Tom Brady, who can make magic happen even when he's playing poorly, to Baker Mayfield, who makes disasters happen when he's playing well. So there's a lot of confidence there. The trade was Mike Evans and Mark Andrew for Jimmy Garoppolo, Jonathan Mingo, and TJ Hawkinson. The background is I only have two quarterbacks in a Superflex league, so I really need that quarterback on the other end. But Jonathan Mingo, he is an undervalued draft pick, also from the Carolina Panthers, second round wide receiver. They're going to pair him with Adam Thielen, who they signed in this offseason to give him a nice 1-2 punch for
Sure.
Bryce Young.
Thielen.
So they've got those two options, and possibly the biggest signing of the offseason, Miles Sanders to the Carolina Panthers. Miles Sanders was fantastic every time he played for the Eagles and got the opportunity to run the ball, but for whatever reason, they didn't stick with the run all the time. So he would average 5.5 yards a carry many games, but he only get 7 touches. And I don't understand that. So I think Carolina's offense was very good. You saw what they did once they got rid of CMC. They kind of caught fire. And then Bryce Young, this is a bad division. He's got a lot of talent. He's coming from Alabama where he plays high-end teams. I think Carolina can win this division at about 9-8. I don't think it's going to be a good division at all. I think Carolina's the only team that finishes above 500. But I just think they have enough weapons. They've put enough into that defense to get to be the number one team in that division. Second and third, I think, are both going to be 7 and 10. Atlanta and New Orleans, put them in whichever order you want. That's just a tiebreaker in my mind. Neither team's going to the playoffs. I do think Derek Carr is going to help, but Alvin Kamara's suspension is going to be big. We don't know if Michael Thomas is going to come back. That defense keeps getting weaker and weaker every year because of the salary cap constraints. New Orleans, unfortunately, they've got some good pieces, and maybe Miller, who they signed or drafted to possibly be the replacement to Kamara long-term, comes through when Kamara's out. I know they got Williams. They still have Olave. They still have some pieces, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. And then I think Tampa Bay is going to be 6 and 11. Not a huge step back. It's just a couple games where you might have pounded Carolina, where now Carolina is going to get the upper hand. I think that's the difference in this division this year. But again, a very bad season for all teams involved. But I just have a little bit of faith. The Carolina Panthers, they had the chance to win the division last year, and I think they got stronger with their free agent moves on offense. Their defense didn't take a step back. So I think they take the division and the number 4 seat in the NFC. Moving on to the NFC North, arguably the most interesting division that's not super powerful. We go to the AFC East, AFC West. You have just monster team on top of monster team on top of monster team potentially. NFC North, you've got a lot of teams that have good storylines. Detroit knocked the Packers out of the playoffs. We're in playoff contention, winning season for the first time in God knows how long. It seems like an eternity. Minnesota Vikings winning the division, then disappointing in the playoffs, but exceptional in one-possession games, exceptional to the point where it's not really repeatable. Green Bay, no Aaron Rodgers, going to Jordan Love. What are they going to be? This is not a bad team if Jordan Love is good. If he is as good as Aaron Rodgers was last year, which Rodgers statistically declined a little bit last year. If he's as good as Rodgers last year, there's a playoff caliber contending team. I don't know if he's going to be to that level, though. And then Chicago. Chicago with Justin Fields kind of figured things out late. That defense is getting a little bit better. They've got some more offensive weapons with DJ Moore, with the trade with Carolina. So a lot of intriguing pieces here. I don't think any of these teams is a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but you've got some teams that really, all four of these could be better than we're expecting and make a good playoff run. All four of them could be worse than we're expecting and just disappoint us even more than we're expecting. So, Joel, who do you have out of the NFC North?
NFC North have to start off, of course, with the Skull and the Minnesota Vikings being the division winners, just because they have the momentum, I think, from last year, as long as they don't have to play the Colts too much. And then, of course, you have the Detroit Lions, as I definitely think that they too have a different kind of momentum. They didn't get into the playoffs, but they prevented the Packers from
And
getting
that's
into the
big for them.
playoffs.
That is
And
big for them.
so that's got to give them a huge confidence boost, and definitely had a good offseason, had a good draft. So I think the Lions are going to be solid. I don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders by any stretch of the imagination, but they're going to cause some teams definitely problems in the regular season and definitely in the playoffs, at least in the first two rounds. Then, of course, Chicago Bears. I know a lot of people have been probably picking them as upset division winners, as of course their daddy is no longer in Green Bay. But I just don't have enough confidence in this team and franchise as a whole yet to say they're better than the Lions, to say they're better than the Vikings. They're definitely better than the Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers. But yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if they got into the playoffs, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they missed the playoffs. So that's why I have them third. And of course, without Aaron Rodgers, as the Jordan Love era begins in Green Bay, I have them last. He has to learn the system. He's not going to have Aaron Rodgers there, and it's just going to be a whole different look team. It's amazing how many prime time games Packers still have. Packers have clout.
Six of them.
People say Green Bay. It's like, yeah, put them on the schedule. You know, how bad can they be? I think they're going to find that they're pretty bad. So once again, Vikings winning the division, Lions second, Bears still trying to figure out who they are third, but Bears have more of an identity than a now brand spanking new quarterback at Green Bay.
Yeah, we do not agree on any position in this division. I've got Detroit winning the division at 10-7. I don't think this is going to be a powerful division. I think they're going to kind of beat up on each other a little bit. But Minnesota, I think, was just so good in those one possession games. The luck has to turn. They had that massive comeback against Indianapolis. That's a 1 in a billion kind of opportunity. I don't expect stuff like that to happen again. I think the magic comes back down for Minnesota. Detroit 10-7 wins the division. I think Minnesota 9-8 is in a wild card contention. I believe. Sorry, no, I got them at 10-7. But either way, I believe they're going to be good, not great. That defense has been a little bit suspect, and Dalvin Cook has a lot of rumors that he's going to be gone June 1st. I've heard rumors that the deal is done. They're waiting for June 1st for cap reasons. So, with that being said, I see Minnesota finishing second. I've got Green Bay finishing third. I think they're still a more complete team. They can lean on the running game. They've got a better defense. Their special teams came along a lot last year. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon could be great fantasy assets because Jordan Love, you don't know what you're going to get. But Jordan Love has also sat behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. They were fine the first year. Not great, but fine, kind of in this range. They've got some pieces around him and make Jordan Love successful, but they've also got pieces to protect him should he not be good in the run game. And then Chicago, yes, getting DJ Moore is good. Yes, Justin Fields should take the next step. But at the same time, this defense got torched last year. Chicago at the end of the year was putting up 30 points a game and losing consistently still. I think Chicago still has a ways to go. I got them at 5-12, and I've got them as a top 4 pick going into next year's draft. Improvement from number 1 overall. which is what you want. But they still have some growing to do, some players to add to make this a complete team. I think they're on the ascend. I think give it a couple more years, keep this direction, keep your coaching staff in place, keep your vision. You'll see them move into that wild card contention in a year or two, but not quite this year. All right. Next up, we go to the NFC South.
You already
NFC West. NFC West. That is home to one of the more surprising teams last year, the Seattle Seahawks, who made the playoffs even though they had Geno Smith at quarterback, and San Francisco, who arguably should have been the NFC representative should Brock Purdy's elbow not gotten a torn UCL early in that game, and they're playing Josh Johnson off the bench, and then Josh Johnson got hurt. Brock Purdy had to come back in when he literally physically could not throw a football. Those two teams seem to be the prohibitive favorites going into this season because the other two, the Los Angeles Rams, badly injured last year, but also an aging team. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. They lost a couple other key pieces in the last couple of years. And then Arizona, a team that's widely projected to be a number one overall draft pick level team, not necessarily a playoff contender in any way, shape, or form. So how do you see the NFC West going?
Well, this one is a case of you have two teams that have, and you have two teams that have no need. And it's really easy to figure out who's getting in and who ain't getting in, as of course 49ers, after how they ended up getting absolutely brutalized in that game by the Eagles. They are going to be possessed. We've seen Deebo Samuel does not think too highly of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think the 49ers are going to be a team. They're going to be possessed. Their mission is going to get back to the playoffs, get into the conference championship, and this time get into the Super Bowl. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks, who punched way above their weight class. I think they can do that again just because this division really sucks, and you really have four teams, but only two who I think are going to show up this year. As you mentioned, Los Angeles Rams just so aging, so many injuries. Baker Mayfield now to the Bucks. So who's going to be the quarterback? Arizona Cardinals, all sorts of dysfunction with a Kyler Murray, just the offensive line, just so much when you know when people are talking about, oh well, I guess the quarterback will have more time to play his video games now. That tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the state, what's going on with the Cardinals. So pretty much 49ers locked for winning the division. I think they're going to be possessed. Seahawks, once again, especially they had a good draft, they had a good offseason. And Geno Smith, the guy who said, everyone wrote me off, I didn't write him back. That quote will be remembered for time immemorial. And then, of course, you have Rams and Cardinals just sort of backing up the back of the division that isn't going to be very competitive.
Yeah, I've got San Francisco winning this one pretty easily at 13-4. I think they're the best team. We'll see what happens with the quarterback position. Purdy coming off the surgery. Trey Lance apparently had a finger in his hand that didn't heal correctly. It's changed his throwing motion. So we'll see. But I think they have enough power in the running game and the short passing game that if you have a viable quarterback, Purdy's not going to miss much time if he misses any in the regular season. They'll be just fine. The division is going to be really, really soft. Seattle, yes, they're going to finish second place, but I think San Francisco probably goes 6-0 in division here, and then we'll see what happens out of the division. Seattle, 9-8. I've got them as the 7 seed right now, finishing second in that place in the division, 9-8. The Rams are an interesting team because they had so many injuries. You lost Matthew Stafford, you lost Cooper Kupp, you lost Odell in the Super Bowl the year before. You had Allen Robinson, which is just basically an injury to itself. He's no longer there, fortunately. The Rams could be one of those teams that's really, really under the radar good. I mean, they did win the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But I think they're going to be a middle-of-the-pack 7-10 team. The rebuild is coming. They're going to have to eventually suffer for just going for it and giving away all your draft picks for so long. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see guys like Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers on the trade block at some point this season to get some assets going into next year if they do fall off early. But the Rams could be sneaky good. We just don't know yet. In Arizona, I've got them at 3-14. I've got them as the worst team in football. I've got them picking number 1 overall. No big surprise there. We don't know how Kyler Murray is going to heal from his injury. He's probably not going to be ready for week 1. I've heard everything from probably on the pup list coming back in week 6 to he might be ready mid-season, and then the Cardinals might look at their record and go, just be 100% for 2024. Let's go get some assets. Let's get some picks and make this a real run in 2024 to start the rebuild in full. But I think they're going to be a bad team. And with that being said, Arizona, number 1 overall pick. So for me, top 7 in the NFC. Number 1 is going to be San Francisco. Number 2 is Philadelphia. Number 3 is Detroit. Number 4, Carolina. Number 5 is Dallas. Number 6 is Minnesota. And number 7 is Seattle.
I don't have them seeded, but I do have, I already have my division winners. And then, of course, my wild card predictions, of course, are Dallas Cowboys to get in and once again disappoint everybody all over again. Detroit Lions, and, of course, Seattle Seahawks.
I believe we have the same teams other than New Orleans. You've got New Orleans. I've got Carolina out of the NFC South. So not a lot of surprises there. I mean, Detroit, Carolina, those are kind of unknown or unexpected teams as of this time last year, but the divisions have taken a step backwards and they've taken a step forward. All right, going to the AFC.
Meow, we're going to the AFC, right?
Right, meow. All right, AFC East. You may have heard that the Jets got a new quarterback by the name of Aaron Rodgers. We will talk about this here in full shortly. This is a bad team because they had no quarterback play last year. The theory is, hey, you got a quarterback, you're a Super Bowl contending team. I think they're 6th most favored with Vegas right now, which I think I can look at 6 teams in the AFC. I'd rather take over the Jets personally, but that's just me. Buffalo, still going to be one of the perennial favorites in the AFC. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs offense. That defense isn't taking a big step back. Miami, I think, took some steps forward this year. They got Devon Achane in the draft, who's going to be a good
if their owner can just stop tampering and costing y'all draft picks.
Yeah, that would have been nice to have our first rounder this year, especially when we would have been in the middle of that wide receiver run. We would have had some power to trade, get more picks, or move up and get. We could have probably traded up and get Bijan Robinson. And all of a sudden, it's like you got Tyreek, you've got Waddle, you've got Bijan. It's a potent offense. But Tua's health is going to be key for the Dolphins season. We'll see what they do. Buffalo's not going anywhere.
Nice signing of Mike White to back him up.
Yeah, Mike White is a very good backup piece, which is going to be good. And this Skylar Thompson was fine in the playoff game, so maybe he develops a little bit more. But you have a couple more competent quarterbacks behind Tua should something happen. And then New England is still New England. I don't think they're going to be a great team, but you never know. They could come out of nowhere and be the New England Patriots of old. We'll see what happens there. So this team, this division, the Dolphins, Bills, Jets have all been named division winners potentially, possible Super Bowl contenders. What do you got out of this one?
Buffalo Bills is a no-brainer for the division winners. Miami Dolphins definitely making the playoffs. I agree with you. They took several steps forward last year. Definite improvement as you're just going, okay, especially when you end up winning a game or two that you really didn't expect the Dolphins to win. The Jets. Finally, we can shut up about Aaron Rodgers. He's finally a Jet. Hallelujah. Yahoo. Parades everywhere, yada yada. But I think that they're just going to miss. He's going from one system to another system, different. And also, I almost guffawed. I think when I saw it, Patricia's gonna. No. What? That was actually Hackett.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett's the offensive coordinator.
I saw that. And I'm like, okay, so he's going to Nathaniel.
I'll play the devil's advocate here. Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator for the Packers in Aaron Rodgers' back-to-back MVP season. So the communication is there. That was a big part of bringing him in was the theory, we're going to get Rodgers on top of it.
For the Patriots, I don't know. I just cannot get excited about Mac Jones. They were trying to trade him. Nobody really wanted him. He's still there. He's still in New England. And probably the best thing that New England is going to have this year is going to be one of the first weeks when they're going to celebrate Brady's career there and toasting him. So I don't think other than that, New England's going to have a whole lot to look forward to. So once again, Bills are winners. Dolphins get the playoffs or second place. Jets just missed the playoffs. like Major League Gist, a bit outside, and New England Patriots are going to be in an uncustomary position at dead last.
I've got Buffalo winning the division, but I've got them tying at 12-5 with Miami. I just kind of feel like the division record for Buffalo is going to be like a 5-1, and Miami's going to be 4-2 or something, and that's going to be what causes them to win the division. But I've got them both 12-5, both in the playoffs. I've got the Jets at 8-9. Now, the Jets have 6 standalone or primetime games planned this season. They have a big name quarterback coming over in a big trade to a team that's got a great defense and just needs a quarterback to make things happen. Does this remind you of anything from last year, Joel?
Hmm.
Reminds me of Denver just a little bit. Now, we've seen Tom Brady switch teams, win a Super Bowl. Saw Matt Stafford
You
switch
mean
teams.
Mr. Overturned Golf Cart?
Yes, we've seen Matt Stafford go win a Super Bowl his first year
Let's
with the.
ride.
So we saw Russell Wilson go. Everybody got hyped up. They put him on prime time out the gate all over the place, and it wasn't good. It takes time to get used to receivers, and Aaron Rodgers is notorious for taking time to get used to, especially young receivers. Garrett Wilson, very young receiver. They did bring in Lazard and Cobb, but the Packers last year led the league in drops. So bringing in those two guys, I don't know how much that helps you. The big problem with the Jets is this: they start with the Buffalo Bills. I don't like their chances there. Then they go and play in Dallas, another playoff team. Solid chance they don't win that one. That could be 0-2. Patriots divisional game could go anywhere. I'll say they win that one. Then they got Kansas City. They're not beating Kansas City. They're not ready. That team just not on the same level yet. Denver, Sean Payton, will get to that team in a little bit. Should be better than they were last year. I'll give the Jets the win there. That gets them at 2-3. Then they get the Eagles, the bye week, so that's probably 2-4. And then coming out of the bye, the Giants, the Chargers, 2 more playoff teams that they could, let's say they split those. Now you're 3-5. Raiders, then Bills and Dolphins. There's a realistic chance that they're 4-7 at this point. 4-7 with 4 games to go, 2 into the division. You've got the Browns who could be solid, the Falcons who could be solid and dangerous. So I just think they're going to get behind the 8 ball early because it's going to take time for this team to gel on offense, and they're going to fall into a hole. I think at the end of the year, they're not going to be a team you want to play, but I just don't think they're going to be the Super Bowl caliber teams. And you also have to look at the rest of the conference. You got Miami, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore now with Lamar Jackson re-signed, Kansas City, and the Chargers, and that's 6. And the AFC South winner is going to be the 7th team. Do you really have the confidence that it's going to be better than those 6 teams that I just mentioned? Maybe. I don't, but maybe. I think they're going to be a solid 8 or 9 seed, and that's just not quite good enough to get the playoffs. And I think the New England Patriots finished 7-10. They're just outclassed in this division. Mac Jones is without question a distant 4th in terms of the quarterback tier in the AFC East. Josh Allen, Tua, and Aaron Rodgers far and away better than he is. I think the defenses for all 3 teams are better than New England's. I think the offensive for all 3 teams is better than New England's, but New England's still going to be a solid team overall. Just not good enough to be a real playoff caliber team.
Yeah, New England had some games where they definitely surprised everybody last season, and then they had other games that they were showing you exactly who they were.
Yeah, and then as we go forwards to the AFC South, this was a division the Jaguars won it coming from basically nowhere, getting to 9-8. The Tennessee Titans had a 7-game losing streak to lose their playoff positioning. They had the division. I think they were first in the conference for a minute there before that 7-game losing streak. And then you've got the Colts and Texans, who both had top 4 draft picks. The Texans ended up with 2 of those, but so the theory here is Jacksonville, the young team, going to take the next step forward. Tennessee, a little bit older, going to take the step back. And then the 2 young teams, Indianapolis, Houston, probably just going to be secondary features. Joel, is that how you see this division playing out? Or are we all sleeping on Tennessee a little too much, or one of these younger teams?
I don't think it's any kind of confidence in Tennessee after we saw what they ended up performing like last year. I think this division is pretty much going to be all about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wrap it up. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the only ones from this division who end up going to the playoffs. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Tennessee Titans. They did not look anything like their former selves this year. Absolutely, they got rocked on times that you didn't think. Now, definitely, you had injury, of course, to Ryan Tannehill. That definitely played a huge part in it. Of course, Joshua Dobbs came in, did amazingly for stepping in, but still. And then you have the two dumpster fires. You have the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts. How healed is Jonathan Taylor? Can he come back? Is he 100%? The Texans, I know they had a couple of games where they actually almost won and they actually showed up, but these two teams are absolutely hard, and the Tennessee Titans are only a little bit better than both of those teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jags are the only one that get in the flipping playoffs. I have Jaguars first, Tennessee Titans second, only because they suck less than the other two. Texans third, and I think the Colts take a complete total nosedive. They're last.
I agree with you at the top. Jaguars. I've got them 11-6 winning this division. I think people are going to sleep on Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill missed a lot of those end of the season games when they started losing. Tannehill's still a serviceable quarterback. He is not going to be there long term. They got Will Levis for a reason, but Tannehill is still going to be there. He's still going to be good this year. Derrick Henry is still going to be Derrick Henry. We haven't seen a fall off yet. He is getting to that age where it becomes a risk, but I think people are sleeping on the Titans. They still have some good pieces. Treylon Burks should take the next step, and they're going to be okay. They've been the most injury-plagued team in the last 3 years. I think we're sleeping on them a little bit. I don't think they're a playoff team quite there. I think they're going to be 9-8. They're going to be contending for that division for a while. I just don't think they're going to get over the hump. Indianapolis, I think they did the right thing by drafting Anthony Richardson, but he is going to take a year or two to develop. We saw it with Jalen Hurts. We saw it with Josh Allen. This type of quarterback does not come in and dominate right away. Justin Fields struggled a lot early season last year and the season prior. So I think they're going to be 6-11. I think they're going to struggle to get it going, but they've got enough pieces. Jonathan Taylor, if he's healthy, will help out quite a bit. I just don't think they're going to quite be ready to take that next step, but a year or two down the line, they very well may be. Houston, 2 years ago, their draft needs was everything. So I don't think it's time for them to, and that was what Mel Kiper's review was. They need everything. So with that being said, going and getting Anderson, going and getting CJ Stroud, going and getting Dameon Pierce last year, you're putting the pieces in place, but it's still a team that's going to take some time. It's another new coaching staff for the third time, rookie quarterback. I think it's going to be a tough year for Houston.
Firing coaches.
Yeah. DeMeco Ryans, you give him 3-4 years. I think Houston's going to be the team to beat in that division, or at least going toe-to-toe with Jacksonville, provided the coaching and quarterback play in Jacksonville stays stable like it should. But for this year, Houston 4-13, it's just going to take some time. They're going in the right direction. Houston could be one of those teams with a softer schedule since they were a last-place team. They could surprise you. They could do better than you're expecting. They could be one of those worst to first type of teams because that is a soft division. And maybe CJ Stroud is what he was hyped up to be prior to the last 2 weeks before the draft, where he was pretty much said he was a great quarterback, almost can't miss prospect. So we'll see what that is. I do think Jacksonville's the only team to make the playoffs in this division, but soft division, strange things happen. We talked about the NFC South, soft division, anything can happen. Same thing here. All right, then we go to the AFC North. Cincinnati has been to the AFC Championship game back-to-back years in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Baltimore did get Lamar Jackson signed. That is a big, big addition, even though they had him already because he could have walked. Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson. He was bad last year, but he had 700 days off. It takes time. We talked about it with Le'Veon Bell. We talked about it with Antonio Brown. It's a skill to take hits. It's a skill to be in rhythm. It takes you time to get reacclimated. Deshaun Watson getting thrown back in. I think that was as much rust as anything else. We'll see how he is this year. And Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett. I don't know if he's the answer there. The offensive line, they did put the investment in. If Najee Harris takes the next step, the defense is solid. Maybe this is a team that could be a little more competitive than I'm thinking, but this is a division that I think if any of those four teams won the division, you would be like, okay, I can make the case for it. Cincinnati, I think, is your favorite, obviously. But if one of those teams falls off and is clearly the last place team, I think you can make a case for it as well. So, Joel, how do you see the AFC North playing out?
Yeah, Bengals are a definite lock, I think, to end up getting the division. They just have the fire within them to get back to the Super Bowl or get close to the Super Bowl. So I think that's going to drive them for a while to come. Ravens, of course, as you mentioned, locked up Lamar, who's been saying he's going to throw for 6,000 yards. I don't know if he's going to throw for 6,000 yards, but I think he's going to throw for a lot, and the Ravens are definitely going to be a force not only in division, but in the entire conference this year. And as all of a sudden, they're going to be like, okay, we're locked and ready. Now, the big question is, can Lamar remain healthy? And we won't have to worry about Tyler Huntley finishing out the entire rest of the season. Because I know if you had Lamar as a fantasy quarterback recently, it's definitely been a little dicey. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers wondering, how will we ever think about anybody else other than Ben Roethlisberger? Now you probably have fans who, with the meme like Wolverine with the, remembering when, and on the tablet is Ben Roethlisberger with how things are going. You mentioned Kenny Pickett. We've had Mitchell Trubisky. Oh boy, it's just, things are bad in Pittsburgh when they pretty much celebrate. All right, Tomlin's not going to have a losing record this year. Woohoo! So yeah, it's bad in the Cleveland Browns. When you're talking about a franchise who's best known for a fan yelling in the middle of the night, you are a factory of sadness at the stadium. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know. So I have Bengals winning the division, Ravens second place, been getting in the playoffs and being a strong contender, I think, to the Bengals. Steelers just roaming around in mediocrity yet again, and Browns is gonna brown. So that's how we see the AFC North.
I've got the Bengals winning the division at 13-4. I think Joe Mixon's going to be just fine. He's not going to have any major legal hits or suspensions. Then you still have that just absolute monstrosity at the wide receiver with Higgins, Chase,
Just
and
stop doing stupid
Tyler
stuff
Boyd.
off the field.
And then Irv Smith Jr. or Irv Smith as a tight end addition. That could be a very good thing for Cincinnati. I think the offense is going to be good. The defense should be fine. That division, I would agree with you, since Cleveland and Pittsburgh not quite on the same level. So they're probably going to get a good number of wins in division. I think they go to 13-4. They're going to be contending for that 1 seed all year long. Baltimore 10-7. They get into the playoffs. I've got them as the 6th seed right now. Lamar Jackson health is going to be imperative because when he's healthy, that team is dynamic. It is exciting, but they are also going to a new offensive system. Greg Roman is gone. So how long is it going to take for him to get acclimated? I don't see him throwing for 6,000 yards. I don't think he's ever thrown for 4,000 yards. So that's a huge step up. Pat Mahomes hasn't thrown for 6,000 yards. Drew Brees, Dan Marino, Tom Brady, all these guys that were Aaron Rodgers, these Hall of Fame all-time best throwers of the football have not thrown for 55, 6,000 yards yet. So I would be kind of surprised if a running back with the talent of Lamar Jackson, his skill set does that. But I think they could still be a very dynamic and dangerous team. We'll see how this new offense looks. I've got Cleveland third. I do think Deshaun Watson comes back to form. I think Nick Chubb on his own has a chance to be very good in the backfield. Amari Cooper is still there. They've got some pieces, and Njoku's been solid. Defense is not bad. I think the Browns could be approaching 500 in the hunt late season, not really in playoff contention, but on the board for in the hunt late in the season. I think they go 8-9. And I think Pittsburgh also goes 8-9, but finishes last place in that division. I just feel like they played with fire so much last year. I think they were like 2-6, 2-7 at one point, and then rattled off a bunch of wins. The AFC is a very, very tough conference. You're going to play Cincinnati and Baltimore multiple times. They finished third place in that division, so they're going to play the Patriots. They're going to play, they're going to play some good teams in there. I just don't think they're going to quite get over the hump. They need to get more offensive line help, and that defense just needs a few pieces. They're getting a little bit old. You've seen TJ Watt get hurt quite a bit, so I think Pittsburgh has a down year.
For this year, we need to do like a Thanos with a reality stone from the Infinity Gauntlet and do some magic realignment. Can you imagine two different divisions with the Bengals, Ravens, Jaguars, Titans, and then a division with the Steelers, Browns, Texans, and Colts?
There are ways to rearrange the divisions realistically that would be painful. I mean, let's look at the AFC and NFC South. If you put the Bucks, the Texans, the Colts, and take your pick between the other three, really, I'll say Atlanta. I think it's probably the lowest common denominator between our two picks. Those are all not great teams. Like, you can realign things geographically and make it worse, but there are ways you can put great divisions together, and there are ways you can pull them apart. I think the best division right now in football is the AFC East. I think all 4 teams have a legit chance, but the AFC North could be right behind them. NFC East would have something to say about that as well. And so would our last division, the AFC West. The defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, the multi-time winner, the multi-time MVP. Pat Mahomes is still there. So when you have him, you have Andy Reid, it's hard to say you're not the favorite, not just in the division, not just in the conference, but overall for the Super Bowl as well. Hard to think either one of us is going to go away from that. The Chargers got into the playoffs and then fired their offensive coaching staff because they blew a 27-0 lead against the Jaguars in the playoffs. If you don't see, if you haven't seen the schedule,
when you keep one of your valuable offensive assets in a late season regular game, that is meaningless, and they get hurt because of being in that late season meaningless game, yeah, it's going to have an effect going forward.
Yeah, Mike Williams, as you're referring to. They also drafted Quentin Johnson, who could infringe on the Mike Williams role or the Keenan Allen role, because Keenan Allen's going to be 30 this year. But they made the playoffs. You've got Herbert. That seems like a team that should be ascending. They did get Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator, the guy who was run out of Dallas because he wanted to score too many points too quickly.
Did you see the cool Chargers anime?
Of course. That's the one you look forward to right away. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. They play the Lions, and that one I think was a little savage, but it was awesome. But yeah, they have the best schedule reveal. The Titans doing theirs, which I showed you. I'll go to that in my final thought here in a little bit. Anyways, those are your two favorites.
Is that the one for the Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah. There's some bad ones in there. Kansas City, the Chargers, they're going to be your favorites. And then you've got Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Las Vegas Raiders, Russell Wilson and Sean Payton now teaming up for the Denver Broncos. I think you see those as your back-end teams in the division. But Jimmy Garoppolo has a very good record as a starting quarterback. He's got Josh Jacobs. He's got Devontae Adams. He's got some weapons that maybe this isn't bad. Trey Turner, I think, was the rookie wide receiver they drafted in the 3rd round who could have some impact. The defense hopefully going to be a little bit better. Some offensive line help. The Broncos. It's hard to say because we had all this hope going into 2022. Then they opened their hearts and their minds and played football and just took dumps on everybody's face in football fields.
Let's hide.
Yeah, let's cry. But you're getting Sean Payton. Javonte Williams probably not going to be ready for the start of the season, so that running back by committee thing's going to be there. We'll see if Samaje Perine and whoever else is there can carry the load. But Sutton, they've got Judy. They did draft another wide receiver whose name is escaping right now. Not a well-known person. His thunder goes really heavy overhead. And this defense was supposed to be good. Again, this is what we were looking at with the Jets for this year. This is what we were looking at Denver last year. Solid defense, needs a quarterback. I think Russell Wilson had an injury that we weren't aware of, and not just the one between his ears that he seemed to be suffering through. I think he's going to be better this year. I personally think he's going to be better this year. But AFC West, who you got?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Chiefs, as they are properly referred to. Anybody else than them being division winners. The Los Angeles Chargers, of course, I think definitely get in the playoffs. They are 2nd place. But please, their coach, there needs to be a proclamation that their coach cannot twerk in workouts, pregame workouts on the field. It needs to be a proclamation sign throughout the entire NFL. Then, of course, you have the Denver Broncos. And I know you saw the picture recently that sort of had a little glimmer of hope for Broncos fans when you have a picture of courtside in the NBA with, of course, Sean Payton, Tim Patrick, and Mr. Let's Ride himself, Russell Wilson, sort of looking like they're having a fun night out on the town. But I'm not sure how much really that's going to translate into a season. There's the potential for good chemistry there, but still think they're going to be a 3rd place team. And guess what, kids? They ain't making the playoffs. And then, of course, even Tom Brady becoming a minority owner is not going to save the cluster that is currently occurring in Las Vegas. Just such a team that had such potential, and just ever since you had the John Gruden having to resign in halftime on Monday Night Football, everything has just gone absolutely south for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think they are dead stinking last.
I got the Chiefs 14-3, first place in the conference, first place overall on the record. Can't count out the champs until someone beats them, and I just think they're going to be too good to win this to not win this division. I've got the Chargers 10-7. I've got them as the 7 seed. I think the AFC is just very, very good. It's going to be tough for you to make the playoffs with fewer than 10 wins. It might take more than 10 to guarantee your spot, but I do think that Chargers offense is going to be a little bit better than it was last year. It's going to take some time to get into the flow. They could start 0-2. They play, I think, the Dolphins and then Chiefs back-to-back weeks. I have to double check that one, but I know they start with the Dolphins. They could start off cold and then rattle it off later in the season. I have Vegas finishing third at 6-11. I think Jimmy G is going to be solid enough. They've got enough weapons to be competitive. That defense needs to be better as Joel disappears. And then last place, I've got the Denver Broncos at 5-12. I do think Russell Wilson's going to be better, but I think they lost a lot of pieces this last year that we're not really considering. Some offensive line woes and some defensive struggles, as well as Joel tries to come back once it lets me do it. So, yeah, I got Denver finishing last place, and I might be dead in the water now, too. Joel, can you hear me? All right, I'm frozen on my end, so if I'm moving on yours, let's keep going. I can't even find my mouse. It's the beauty of live entertainment, people. Give us a second. I can't control anything all of a sudden. Anyway, since he said he can hear me, let's go this way. I'm going to take my seating from first to last in the
Okay, and now I'm live. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to try it again.
There it is. All right, now we're back. There's Joel. Technology just went crazy, and we finally figured out. Sometimes things are dumb, especially technologically.
We now return to the podcast already in progress.
Yes. So my seeding: Kansas City 1, Cincinnati 2, Buffalo 3, Jacksonville 4, Miami 5, Baltimore 6, the Chargers at number 7. Joel, who you got in order?
Oh, I
Or
didn't.
who do you got as your playoff teams at least?
Oh, playoff teams. I did not do a seeding order, but for playoff teams, I have course, NFC, Dallas Cowboys, Detroit Lions, Seattle Seahawks, and I did mention New Orleans. And for AFC, Baltimore Ravens, Miami Dolphins, and Chargers.
All right. So, yeah, that's what's going to happen. I've actually got my whole playoff seeding thing worked out. But for right now, I've actually got San Francisco over Kansas City in the Super Bowl. It's very, very early. But it's hard to pick against Kansas City. I'm going to do it. I think San Francisco might be the most strong team against Kansas City. Good defense, can control the ball on offense.
Yeah, I would kind of want to root for the Buffalo Bills to get to the Super Bowl, but I just don't think they have the horses to do it.
No, they need number 2 wide receiver very badly to go properly on the other side of Stephon Diggs. I know they got Dalton Kincaid. They're going to use him in some non-tight end situations, but I just don't think that's quite the same. Gabe Davis is not that guy. Buffalo's going to be a tough out, but I just think if they were in the NFC, they'd be a Super Bowl finalist pretty much guaranteed. Them in Philadelphia, San Francisco would be about the only 3 teams I have any confidence in. That being said, I just don't think they're quite there. I think Miami probably puts a pretty good scare into Kansas City before they get knocked out, is how I'm projecting it. But I still can't see anybody beating Kansas City as of right now. They're just too good. Kansas City's made 5 straight AFC Championship games, so why pick against them now? Anyways, let's go to final thoughts before everything breaks, because it keeps happening.
My final thought I'll toss out here is that it just absolutely amazes me how he is not in the NFL anymore, and yet still Antonio Brown is somehow out there making news, and it ain't the good kind because, of course, recently he has become a majority owner of the AFL's franchise, the Albany Empire. If you ask him, he'll say he's the sole owner, but he's still having tomfoolery and shenanigans going on. Of course, remember about a week and a half ago, there was a story about he got into a heated argument with a security guard on the field. You're going, okay, well, what can that be about? Since that has happened, there's been a story coming out of he has used for the AFL commercials of his franchise NFL footage. Okay, it might be a little bit of infringement, but not bad. But he has also not played payers. Okay, words and stuff. Words
Not
EXE.
paid players.
Words EXE not responding. Abort, retry, ignore. Okay, turned on, turned off. Players not playing players and coaches, and also locking out players from hotel rooms. So it just never ends with this guy. It's like if he was a bad player, why are we surprised that he is a difficult owner? So yeah, because I like the quote that you put on when I ended up sharing about AB as an owner. Like maybe he could be impeached.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Dan Sanders finally out because he was bad at his job, so maybe AB's next. No surprise, AB still doing.
AB just is that sort of personality that you just have a bad feeling that one of these days you're gonna see one of those headlines and it ain't gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. My final thought is going to be about the schedule release videos. The Chargers still are the number 1 team in that regard. They roast everybody they play against one way or the other. Some are more severe than others. Go check it out this year. They got the Lions good on the gambling situation. The Chiefs, they brought in the
speaking
bank
of roasting,
robbery fan.
Speaking of roasting, I have a bonus final thought after you're done.
Ooh, okay. That one's good, but I think my favorite one this year was the second one the Titans did, because the Titans did one with like Keith Urban, some of the country music stars to release their schedule the first time. The second one, they went to Broadway, which is the street of bars and nightclubs going to Nissan, between Bridgestone Stadium where the Predators play and Nissan Stadium where the Titans play. The Titans also do have a new stadium getting built. I'm not going to play it, but you may have seen these videos online in the past. I know I can't remember the YouTuber's name, but he would have like his father or girlfriend.
Stallions.
Yeah, go and be like, "Hey, who is this team?" They'd show a sports logo and they'd be like, "I don't know, the Sea Pigeons," and then they do like the noise, like Fox's music, and then
they had one person who thought that the horseshoe for the Colts was the Dallas Cowboys.
They had 2 people do that one. So the first game for the Titans is the New Orleans Saints. The official guess was the St. Louis Rams, a team that hasn't been in St. Louis for about a decade now. The Falcons, I think, might have been the worst guess because they called them the Red Stallions. I don't know how the hell you get a bird to look like a horse, but hey, as I've heard today, if that's the case, you got 3 out of the 4 towards an all-horse division. Broncos, Colts, and now the Atlanta Red Stallions. The Pirates of the Islands of the Caribbean for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, why go that specific? Just call them the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates may be doing better than the Bucks this year.
Chester Cheeto for the Jaguars is a pretty good slander one. And then literally doesn't exist for the second Jaguars game. And yeah, there were some bad ones. The Steelers, the 69ers, no, the 49ers, the Stars, no. And then emphatically, oh, that's the Eagles from Philadelphia. And it was the Seahawks. So I like how they kind of poke fun at the people of Nashville. I don't want to say they're fans of Nashville or Tennessee, the Titans, or anything like that, because, well, if you're a fan, you probably know who is who in your division. But they didn't. They did get some right, like the Dolphins. I don't know how you screw that one up, but they did have the Atlanta, Florida Dolphins. They had the Texas Texans. They didn't get any of them right on this video. Of course, I'm sure they didn't put the people that are like, oh yeah, that's the Saints. Oh yeah, that's the Bucks. That's the Panthers. North Carolina Tigers, I think, was the Panthers guess. So there were some bad ones in there. But yeah, that was probably my favorite one. But keep it up. The Chargers really set it on fire because I think it was the Patriots just had some guy come out on a whiteboard and say, "This is who we're playing." This year, Josh Allen was throwing like newspapers. The Broncos did an Office spinoff that brought in Angela from The Office into the thing. I didn't watch the whole thing because I don't like The Office that much, but if you like The Office, that's probably your thing. The Browns did a WWE spinoff with the Elf just body slamming people, which was kind of lame, but hey, at least you tried. Dolphins did like major movies as their like movie posters to do it, which is kind of nice. So you saw you saw effort being made to one-up everybody this year, which is good to see. So that means the schedule release is not the biggest event of that day. It's going to be the release of the schedule release videos that I'm going to really look forward to going forward. So anyways, Joel, bonus final thought that I didn't know about.
Bonus final thought, definitely have to, the Troll of the Month award definitely goes to DeAndre Swift. Right away, settling into his new role for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, rival Dallas Cowboys. And right away, he gets off a shot across their bow when they asked DeAndre Swift why he chose to wear the number 0. Swift's response has been the total number of times the Dallas Cowboys have reached the NFC Championship in my lifetime. Boom. Roasted. That's my bonus final.
Oh, that just means if they make it one time, he's got to change his number to 1 just to keep the joke running. But that's a good one. And I do have a bonus one that you might like, and it's going to use your did they do that? Did that happen award? And that goes to the fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs chanting outside the building after beating Tampa. We want Florida before they beat Boston. And they are now find themselves down 3-1 after being down 3-0. So they've at least got one win.
You got to do the imitation of Kyle Dubas throwing the water bottle in frustration.
Yeah, we want Florida, and then they get smacked around. The series is not over. The NHL does have comebacks from 3-0 down, so it's not over. It's not the NBA where that never has happened. But Florida seems like a pretty good bet to win this in the next couple of days, if not tonight. Carolina did advance.
When you have your core players not producing.
Yeah, Carolina advanced a couple of days ago. I was wondering if we were going to hear the "We Want Florida" chants from the Carolina fans. They did not do it, at least in the game.
It's really it's an interesting playoffs if you think about it, right? Bolts out first round. The reigning champions, the Avalanche, out the first round. You have 2 teams that are usually associated with at least conference finals. Boston Bruins and the Rangers are out of the playoffs. Penguins didn't even make the playoffs, so it's anybody's game.
Yeah, you're gonna see some new blood here. Vegas, I think, is the most recent finalist that's remaining. And they were in there, 4 or 5 years ago in their expansion season. The Seattle Kraken, second year. I think they're 2-2 with Dallas. They might be down 3-2 to Dallas at this point, but
And
it's
Vegas and Edmonton is a close series
Edmonton's a
too.
2-2 series. The Hurricanes already dispatched of the Devils. I think that might be the team to beat right now is the Hurricanes. But the Oilers haven't been there in a while. The Knights have not been there in a while. The Panthers never won a Stanley Cup. You're going to see someone that hasn't won in a while, which is kind of nice after seeing the monotony. And no offense to Joel and the Lightning, the monotony of seeing the same team does get a little boring unless it's your team, which I know Tampa Bay has loved having the Lightning in the championship round.
You also
last
have
4
to
years.
figure out how tired and how much pain that franchise is in after 3 trips to the finals, because that's a lot of mental and physical energy expended.
Yeah, but the Boston
Not.
Bruins, best regular season of all time, out in the first round.
Yeah, because
to
what the
the
last
Florida Panthers.
because I looked that up the last time you had a President's Cup team win the actual Stanley Cup.
2018 Washington Capitals, wasn't it?
Wasn't it the Blackhawks?
Oh, I thought it was more recent than that. I'm gonna have to look that up now, because I thought it was. I thought it was the Capitals from about 5 years ago. No, you might be right here.
Bum, 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 bum.
Only 8 times has the President's Cup winner also won the Stanley Cup. And of course, now it wants to not load correctly. Technology is not having a good day, folks. That's all I can say. Edmonton in 86-87, Flames in 88-89, Rangers 93-94, Stars 98-99, 2000-2001 Avalanche, 2001-2002 Red Wings. The Blackhawks were the last team, 12-13. And of course, there's one more that the screen decided it wanted to quit, and that was the Red Wings 07-08. So that's the 8 teams, and it's still that way. That's including the embarrassing sweep by the Tampa Bay Lightning at the hands of the Blue Jackets a few years ago, and then this debacle in Boston this year, which I think is actually worse.
Well, the good thing about that is Marchand cannot lick anybody this year.
And here's the thing, Boston, you can look forward to. When this happened to Tampa and they got embarrassed in the first round to a team they should have clobbered, they came back and went to 3 state Stanley Cup finals and got the taste out of their mouth in a big way.
So somebody else, it was one of the NBA shows I was listening to, and I think wasn't it Barkley? Because all of a sudden they were talking about the Celtics, and they're going, "Oh well, they still have the Bruins, don't they?" And they're like, "Ooh, that's like
no, they don't." Yeah. Also, fun fact: if you want to see something kind of entertaining about the Boston Bruins losing, the Pat McAfee show had a jersey retirement in honor of the Bruins being knocked out. Well worth the watch. You can find it on YouTube.
He gonna be getting some money in the coming days.
Oh yeah, he's got something big brewing. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be announced soon. Anyways, with that, I am flying Ryan Gilchrist along with
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin.
And we'll be back periodically in the next couple of months. Once we get closer to August, we're going to start ramping back up, getting ready for the NFL season, but still kind of that slow time of year. But once we get to preseason and fantasy season, you're going to see a lot of our faces a lot more, and that's not necessarily a good thing for some people. But, hey, you're going to see us talk about football a lot more, and that's what we're here for. Anyway, with that,